Hello, my name is Lashira Green, and I am doing a presentation on basically the sexual double standard between adolescent girls and adolescent boys. And I am referring to the age, gender, youth, and sex of each individual who has or who fits into the sexual double standard that we have set as like American people. But I didn't only want to focus on America, I wanted to focus it on an international global standpoint. So, with that being said, most of the articles that I found were basically talking about your typical sexual double standard for both girls and boys, and how, when it comes to especially like heterosexual relationships, when it comes to that, boys have a way of being able to express their sexuality more than girls. And when it comes to girls, we are looked at as basically as doing things that we shouldn't be doing when it comes to being sexual and expressing our sexuality. But with boys, it's sort of like a rite of passage. So when you see a boy that is expressing his sexuality, whether it be catcalling, whether it be just, having sex with multiple partners, whatever that case may be, it seems as though society has put in place that yes, that's okay for boys to express their sexuality better, and it's okay for them to be accepted. But when it comes to a girl doing that, then we are looked at as basically like we don't matter, and that there's something that we shouldn't be doing. So basically, the first article I found is called "The Sexual Double Standard in Adolescent Peer Acceptance." Basically, this hits on everything that my topic is about. It looked at different ways that there are different standards for both girls and boys when it comes to how they are raised sexually. Girls can behave in a certain way, and they still can be accepted in society, but it will take a longer time for them to be accepted in society because of the fact that they are behaving in a certain way. But when it comes to boys, boys can do certain sexual things and still be praised for it, but girls are mostly ridiculed and scorned for that same act. There is a big sexual double standard for both girls and boys. Sexual partners, especially with sexual partners, when it comes to a boy, adolescent boy having multiple sexual partners, he's looked at as, yeah, that's how you should do it. Like, yeah, I need to look up to you. Like, you're the man. You got everything. But when it comes to a girl having sexual partners, she's looked at as basically as, whore or slut, or she's just, looked at as these derogatory under these derogatory names, and that causes for a sexual double standard. So it's like you ask the question of, why can't I do it, me being a female, but when it comes to a male, it's okay for him to do it. It's okay for him to have multiple sexual partners. It's okay for him to catcall. It's okay for him to express himself sexually. But when it comes to me, I get ridiculed for it. This can also be related to peers. I found an article about friendships where they did a study of adolescent girls and boys in the ninth to the 12th grade, and how when it came to, the sexual double standard, girls, well, certain acts calls for certain, genders to have a certain amount of friends. This article was called "The Teen Sexual Double Standard and How It Impacted the Circle of Friends." It was done by the American Sociological Association, or ASA, if you want to be clear about it. Basically, it looked at how the teen sexual double standards can have an impact on the circle of friends that you have, and also can have an impact on the amount of friends that you have. But based on the sexual act, that is what determines your friends. So in this article, I found that when it came down to girl adolescents, girls' friendships would derail and sink and decrease because of the fact that they had sex with multiple people, or they had sex a lot. But when it comes to adolescent boy who also had sex a lot and had multiple partners, his friends looked at him as the man. he's the one I want to be friends with. He's the guy with the master plan. Like, yeah, let's praise him for it. Also, when it came to certain sexual act as kissing, it was a reverse with a double standard between girls and boys. It came out to be that when girls express themselves just by making out and without having sex with anyone, then their friendships with people would increase and their friendship would get bigger. But when it came to a boy, because he's looked at as a higher standard and because he's looked at as someone who is supposed to, have sex with the girl, if it comes to him and he's just making out with the girl, then that is looked at as, oh yeah, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not someone I could be friends with because of the fact of you didn't take that extra step and have sex with the girl or whoever it may be. It seems as though in high school with these adolescents and how their friendships are impacted by their sexual relations, it seems as though males or boys are supposed to, have sex with the girls in order to get that praise, in order to feel powerful. But when it comes to girls, when they don't, have sex and all they do is make out, then that is when it's looked at as tolerable. That is when it said, okay, yeah, you're a girl. We expect you to have sex, but then again, we don't, because when you do have sex, you're ridiculed. And them being adolescents, like 12 to maybe 20 years old, then friendship is a big thing when it comes to, in high school, when it comes to sexual double standards in teens. That's a very big thing for them. So for, being an adolescent and for being a boy adolescent and you're not having sex, then that kind of penalizes you. But when it comes to a girl and you're not having sex, that kind of boosts you up. So that was a good article that I found about sexual double standards with adolescent girls and adolescent boys. But back to what I said earlier about how I didn't just want to look at it from a American point of view. I wanted to see how other cultures and other situations, how other parts of the world view their sexual double standards and attitudes when it comes to adolescent girls and boys. When I researched my topic, I found numerous articles about sexual attitudes and behavior, among people from Jamaica, Korea, Egypt, Quebec. It was just a mass amount of articles about how other cultures and other people in other parts of the world, how they view their adolescents and how the adolescents view it themselves. So one article was entitled Sexual Attitudes and Behavior Among Youth Adolescents in Jamaica. I figured that since my topic was about sexual double standards for girls and boys, it focused a lot on how in Jamaica, the girls, they have been taught that sexual behavior is accepted as young as 18, not 18, but, not 18, but 11 years old. It's accepted for them to have sex. It's accepted for them to be pregnant. It's accepted for them to just express themselves sexually in any way. And so there was a study that they did also about sexual behaviors and attitudes with girls and boys, and they found out the majority of girls who were now women at the time had babies as young as 11. This to them was normal. This to them is normal, like, because of the fact that they look at it as, because of the fact that you go through puberty, and puberty is something that, everybody go through, but they take that as, yes, you're an adult now. You can go out and do these sexual things and not be ridiculed about it, because it doesn't matter what gender you are. To them, once you hit puberty, you can express yourself, and those sexual behaviors and attitudes are accepted. But to them, when it comes to the girls having sex and getting pregnant as young as 11, that is something that, it's a mature thing for them. It makes them a mature woman. Other things that played a role in this was the social cultural and I'm sorry, I lost my place. The social cultural and the gender norms. Gender norms played a huge role because they feel as if it sends out mixed messages about sexuality and imposes double standards for both girls and boys. So, in the society that is Jamaica, in the society where girls are more accepted for being sexual and expressing their sexuality, as well as boys, both genders are, accepted. And so because of that, this can send out the mixed messages to them, which may be acceptable, but to us, it may not be acceptable. So there are mixed messages about sexuality, and there are mixed messages that impose different double standards to something that we're not used to, but to them, that is normal. So that was a really interesting article that I found. And another article that I found was also how sibling influence can influence your sexuality and gender roles. This article looked at how girls and boys with older siblings and how that them having an older sibling kind of set a double standard because they count on the sibling influence to, help them learn about gender roles and sexual standards. So when it came to the girls, it looked at mainly the girls with the ethnic backgrounds, ages 12 to 18. It found that the girls with older brothers showed more of a desire to become a parent. But it also stated regardless of the older sibling's sex, the girls were still showing the same results. But for the boys, it wasn't that case, For the boys, I believe that it said that they both looked at how just because you have an older brother or older sister, they were still respected as your older sibling, so you still looked up to them for your gender role and your sexual standard. That was also an interesting article, but I also wanted to end it with looking at the actual mental health associated with the sexual double standard between girls and boys. I wanted to look at how does it feel for you to be an adolescent and you have to go through these sexual double standards. You have to go through these gender roles at an early age because of the fact of society wants you to behave in a certain way, and based on your gender, your age, your sex, you are supposed to act this way sexually, and if you don't act this way sexually, then that could mean that you are not doing something right, and so therefore society looks down on you because of that. So I wanted to really look at how how that played a part with their mindset. Like, how does that make them feel mentally? What does that do to them? So I found an article that gave a different approach about it. It said that it does create some psychological and mental effects when it comes to the sexual double standard. Because of the fact that girls go through something different than boys and boys go through something different than girls, then they both have different type of mental effects. Basically, the boy in the situation, because he is supposed to be looked up and praised as a god when he expresses his sexuality, then this can really have a toll on a boy's self-esteem if they're not, expressing their sexuality in the way the society is acceptable. So for them, they go through the whole, okay, what if I'm not man enough? What if my friends don't like me? What if my brother don't like me, etc., etc., etc. And so this really plays a toll on their mental. I really wanted to, pay attention to that. And so with girls, since they are looked at as, supposed to be submissive, not supposed to express themselves as well as boys, and if they do, they get ridiculed and they get talked about and they get basically teased and bullied because of the fact that they want to do the same things boys do. Why shouldn't it be acceptable for girls to express their sexuality as boys do? So this article really focused on the mental health, and it said regardless, gender roles play a huge role in the sexual double standards, and there was increased feelings of entitlement for both the girls and the boys. And so the sexual double standards gives the girls modesty and gives the boys proneness. So this was really a easy topic for me because I really was interested in how what are the different types of sexual double standards? What are boys allowed to do that girls aren't? What are girls allowed to do that boys aren't? I really wanted to focus on that, and I really hope that it leads other people to also research that, because this is something that we, as we all been teenagers. We all have experienced different things where when we do something we get talked about, or when we do something we gain friends, or we gain that praise. And so when it comes to being sexual, then it should be accepted regardless of your age, gender, sex. It should be accepted. So for my topic, I really wanted to touch bases on the different types of sexual double standards that there are, whether it be in America, whether it be all around the world. What are the mental effects? What kind of feelings do other kids feel about it? Like, what other, factors impact sexual double standards? And so what I have talked about was how the sexual double standards are in Jamaica, how when you're in high school, your sexuality plays a part of how many friends you have, what's your friend circle like. I also looked at how your older siblings can influence you because of their gender roles. And I also just looked at the peer acceptance and sexual double standards in general. Like, what are they? Why do we have them? Why is it such a big problem? And so I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you are more interested in it. And that is my presentation. Thank you.